everyone, I hope you're all keeping well. So we've got another 3 weeks at least of lockdown, which I think probably everyone was anticipating, to be honest. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to come on and just give you a few tips, a few hints on brow maintenance and maintaining the shape of your brows whilst you're at home and obviously whilst we are closed. So, I mean, a lot of you, probably most of you now, will have the shape, you have your ideal brow shape that we've worked with you to achieve. Some of you might even be in the middle of a brow regrowth program, sort of on that journey to getting the ideal shape for your brows. So what we don't want while we're all at home is to get a bit tweezer happy and go and ruin all of that hard work that we've spent, in some cases with some of you, a few months to achieve. So just a few hints and tips really. So what I thought we'd start with is just a few reference points, if you didn't know, which kind of give a general idea of where the brows should start, where they should finish, a kind of general shape to them. So if you weren't aware of that, there are 3 main reference points, and the first one, just grab my tweezer, so the first one shows you where the brow ideally should start, here at the bulb, so that's where it should start. And the way to get that, you want kind of something, a pencil or something quite thin, and you're basically going from the outer corner of the nose to the inner corner of the eye and all the way up. So if you're joining that, that's where your eyebrow should ideally start. Same on the other one, and that gives you an indication. We don't want them to be too close together because then it just kind of looks a bit odd on some people, and it can sometimes make them look a bit like, almost like you're frowning as well sometimes. But equally, we don't want them to be too far apart, because not only does that look a bit weird, it actually widens or gives perception that the nose is a lot wider, which we definitely don't want. So that's a really good reference point. Outer corner of the nose, inner corner of the eye, and that will give you, sort of show you basically where they should start. So then you know that you're safe. Anything in between those 2 points, you're absolutely safe to go ahead and remove. You can go mad, you can remove all of those hairs. The next reference point will give you where an idea of where the tail end should finish. So it's almost the opposite really. So we're still going from the outer corner of the nose, but now we're going for the outer corner of the eye. If you join that, you can see that's where, ideally, that's where your eyebrow should be finishing on both sides there. So it might be that they're a little bit short and you want to fill them in perhaps with a little bit of pencil or powder, whatever finishing product you like to use. If they're too long, if they're coming down too far here, then that gives you a reference point of where to tweeze up to. What we don't want is for them to look too long, because actually when the tail of the eyebrow becomes too long and actually droops down further than the bulb of the eyebrow, it does give that kind of droopy effect. It can make your eyes look a bit more droopy, so again, we definitely don't want that. So that's a really good indication of where it should start and finish, so you know you can tweeze anything in between here and anything around there. And then the last one, if you are filling them in, or if you've got a few at the above that you do want to remove, the last point of reference, which is good to know, is where the highest point of your eyebrow should be. And that again, so we're still going from the outer corner of the nose, but this time you're going from the outer, just poked myself in the eye there, the outer corner of your pupil. So when you're drawing a line here, that's where the highest point of your eyebrow should be. So that again just gives you an indication of where you can tweeze to, or where you can fill in if you're using any brow products at home. So there's some good points to be aware of if you weren't sure. Now when it comes to tweezing the eyebrows, I'm trying to get my lid back on, there we go. We don't, as I said, we don't want you to get a bit too tweezer happy, we don't need to go too mad and start ruining that lovely shape that we've got with you. So I would probably suggest, before you do anything, cleanse your eyebrows, cleanse the skin around it so it's nice and clean, wash your hands obviously. And then I actually quite like, personally, I think it's quite a good idea if you're not really sure what you're doing. If you're used to filling your eyebrows in at home anyway, which a lot of people use brow products now, whether it's pencils, creams, powders, you know, there's so many different things now. what I would probably suggest is actually do that first. So fill them in as you would wear them every day normally. Get all of that on so that they're looking how you would want them to look, and then you can tweeze around that. So you've got your reference points, you know where to fill in to. Now they're done, you can actually tweeze around that, and then you know you're not going to go too far. You're not going to make them too thin. So that's just a little tip that I always think is quite handy. Also, you know, we don't want to go too much. Even if you just remove one extra hair, 2 extra hairs by accident, just that one little hair can make a massive difference to the shape and can actually ruin it quite significantly. And then you obviously have to wait for it to grow back, and then you've got more filling in to do. So if you do use finishing products, do all of that first, and then you've got, again, another guide to kind of tweeze around. If you don't fill them in or you don't want to do it that way, I would just make sure you don't go too close to the actual brow shape itself, so that you haven't got any worries about accidentally taking too much. But you know that anything underneath here, anything sort of coming on near the eyelid, you can remove. Anything past that tail, obviously in between. A lot of people do think that you can't remove hair from above the eyebrow. To be honest, that is quite old fashioned. It's quite old kind of training, really. So you absolutely can. I wouldn't go mad, obviously, and I wouldn't start tweezing and affecting the shape from the top, but certainly if you've got the fluffy ones, I get quite a lot. In fact, you can probably see because I haven't done them for a while. There are a few around here. This is where I tend to get kind of a few wispy ones that are a bit darker, but all across the top really. So you can tweeze those as long as you're not going too close again and affecting the shape. It just gives a bit of a kind of neater finish to it, really. When it comes to tweezing, you want a decent pair of tweezers. These personally are my favourite. These are Tweezerman. They are fantastic. They're the ones that we use professionally in the salon. They are a little bit more expensive, but they are worth it. They last ages. And actually with Tweezerman you can send them off to have them sharpened if you need to for free. They do have to go to America, so I think it takes like 6 weeks or something like that, but it's an option to get a couple of pairs. They're going to last you so long. I love them. They're really, really good. But everyone has their own favourite pair of tweezers, so whatever pair of tweezers you do like. When you come to actually removing the hairs, if you're not used to doing it, you want to make sure you're removing the hairs in the direction of the hair growth. So you don't want to be pulling them in the opposite direction, and you definitely don't want to be pulling them out, because that will potentially snap the hair and you're not actually removing it then. So what you're basically doing is just gliding it out. You're literally just kind of sliding it. Just sliding it out from its follicle. Really gently. And you want to get the actual tweezers themselves, the tip of the tweezers, right as close to the skin as you can. Probably an idea as well to stretch the skin, because then you're not going to start pinching the skin. I mean, it depends how you do it. I've got eyeliner on my eyelid there, but yeah, just kind of stretch the skin, and then you know it kind of keeps it taut and it's a bit easier. So you're literally gliding the hair from the follicle rather than snapping it outwards or something like that. And generally, obviously everyone can be a little bit different, but as a general rule, the eyebrows that go underneath here and also the ones on top tend to grow towards the outside of the face, so then obviously you're tweezing in that direction as well. Same on the other side, and generally the hairs in the middle here, they tend to grow upwards, so you're kind of tweezing upwards with those. But just have a little look. Everyone is a little bit different. That's a general rule, but some people can have hairs growing all different directions, so just kind of be mindful of that when you're tweezing them as well. And then lastly, trimming. Not everyone needs to trim. Let me just get my brush out, but if you do need to trim, if they're a bit long and a bit kind of straggly, I have to trim mine. I was blessed with my dad's eyebrows, thank you for that, not my mum's unfortunately. Mine aren't too bad at the moment, but if you do need to trim, again there is a bit of a knack with it. What you don't want to do is just kind of trim as you go, kind of looking at it, because you can end up with gaps and you don't want to over trim. So literally, you want some kind of eyebrow brush. A spoolie like this is perfect. You're just literally, mine do need it, look at that, hello. It's like the Grouch. But basically you want to brush them up And then with the scissors, now I personally like to use nail scissors really small, just because they're really tiny and they're easy to use. You don't want to be using massive clumpy scissors, but really, really tiny ones. And all you're doing is just trimming just to the shape of the eyebrow. So you don't want to be going too far down onto the eyebrow itself, because then you're going to over trim. So literally just to the line of the eyebrow, and then you can brush it back into place. So that's the best way. Brush them up, trim any little stragglers just to the edge. And that's that, really. Easy. Yeah, that was just a few kind of tips on how to maintain the shape. So we don't want to go too close, we don't want to be getting too tweezer happy there. But have a lovely day, and we'll keep in contact again, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.